So you should get your meeting now to say it's being recorded. So it's recorded basically in case we need to go back, or if anyone misses it because of meetings, then we can go on. So also at the end, if we can flash this back up again, this is really just to give feedback afterwards. So you can hold your phone in front of it. I'll just leave it there for a minute and then you can give feedback at the end. So if I stop sharing now and introduce Peter. And Peter, are you ready?
Yep. Ready to go.
Thank you, Peter. I'll be quiet now. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to such a body as the Institute and make you aware of what I'm looking to bring to the business, the construction industry, and hopefully enhance the offering that we have for the construction industry and beyond. It's not a sale in any way. It's a discussion about how we as a business can influence the detection of mental illness within construction and typically other types of businesses as well, and also the health and safety side.
Sorry, Pete, I'm not sure what happened there.
It's okay. So what I'm looking to do is to open up to the floor some ideas that I'm bringing into the construction industry via our product. Because it seems to me the rates of deaths in the industry are, well, they're awful, pretty awful, to be honest. And I think the way the technology's gone, the way it's going, I think we can do a lot more to assist. And one of the ways we can do this is through our Datascope system. So we have a system that is used in the construction industry, used in the utilities industries, where all of the old days, all of the RAMs, methods, statements, permits to work, everything is automated. So that means any construction worker that comes on one of the Datascope sites has apps on their phone they use for hot work permits. It could be any kind of permit, ladder permits, crane booking, things like that. And when I looked at this, I thought, every member of staff or every contractor has access to those apps. We must be able to get messages out there or to give some assistance to them if they need assistance. So is there a better way of doing it? And what I'm doing, I've challenged our business to look at permits to work, asset management, plant inspection, QHSE systems that we do. And look, can we do something such as put a mates in mind logo on there to allow a construction worker, if they feel they need help, to hit that logo and to automatically direct them to a helpline? Is there other ways we can do it? And yes, there is. So we're looking through the systems that I develop into our business, such as analytics on cameras. We're looking to put effectively detection on those cameras. So for instance, cameras at the top tier of a construction site, looking at the top floor for loitering detection, or for a person towards the edge of the building who appears to be lingering for a predetermined amount of time. And or if the person is on their own, can we send this alert to the team on site to look, basically react the way they should be reacting to that? So PPE detection, so we can have cameras that warns if a person has removed a hard hat, removed a high vis, or removed a harness. Shall we push notify to people on site to say someone's taking a hard hat off? Why? What's the intent to doing that when you're on site? So obviously there's a health and safety hazard there. So our fatigue management system that we have, should we be push notification there where people are exceeding the work time directive? Our field operations app, should we have a help button on that for people working for remote working of staff anywhere in the UK or anywhere in the world, in fact? So our access control system, so we have a system called DataPod. It's a full high turnstile, and everyone that goes on site either has to use biometric, fingerprint biometric or facial biometric to access that site. And that shows that they've had the competency, they've had the inductions, and they're on site. So should we be pushing notifications to people as they're coming on site, just to be mindful of look after your mates at work. It could be the Lighthouse Project, or it could be Mates in Mind, or one of those charities. But also, because we monitor the times people come onto site and come off site, should we be automating our system to say such person has come on and off site at regular times all this week, and now it's Friday evening and he hasn't come off site? Why? Where is he? Is there an issue? Is there a problem? Should this be automated rather than just a report that no one will look until the Monday morning? So other areas we can look at. So we can look at through the camera system. We can look at faults. We can look at trespass. We can look at vehicle speed and direction for health and safety. But we can also have an app on a camera that will look at a person's face and look at the signs of depression and anxiety. And this is being worked on now by a university over in Ireland, and I think a university in the UK. And what we're looking to do, because we use facial recognitions at the point of entrance on our sites, we're looking at putting that analytic on as a trial to see if we can register anxiety or stress from a person going through there. So what do we do with it? Is there a Data Protection Act issue or a GDPR issue with highlighting that a person has come onto site and we believe they may have stress or anxiety? This is all the kind of things that I'm trying to open up to the floor to see whether I'm looking in the right direction, and our industry in particular, where we're managing construction, should be more helpful and more proactive. So that one of the biggest challenges I think we've got in our industry is its cost. When you're in a construction, everything is cost. How should I be able to influence the people that get these services to put these cameras in, to put the analytics on, to spend more? That's a challenge which I'm opening out to the floor to see whether there's any way to influence these people. Can we work with the charities to put scaff tags or even equipment that can go onto scaffold at the higher levels of the construction with QR codes on, so that if someone is up there and needs help, they scan the QR code, which immediately calls Mates in Mind or the Lighthouse Project. Something so simple as you go up to the next level, move them up to the next level, move them up with the camera, with the analytics and the loitering. So the questions I have, and it's relatively easy, I suppose, is let's have a look at the analytics. Let's have a look at the Mates in Mind, the Lighthouse Project. And before I go on, offer it to the floor. Does anyone have any questions in relation to anything I've said up to now?
So we do have a question from Carl regarding invasion of personal privacy. Carl, do you want to come off mute and just...
Yeah, it's just obviously with having cameras on a construction site, you've got to sort of use them for the intended purposes for what they're there for, which is security or something like that. So if you start to go and use it down the route of watching people and obviously looking for safety breaches or anything like that, is that not against what the ICO Commission have said? Because obviously if you've got cameras watching people, surely that's a discriminatory thing with a view to disciplinary or anything like that, right? And, it can be used and abused in terms of that format with contractors and management teams looking at people with a view to using the CCTV to engage with workers and then disciplining from there from any breach of site rules. And I think when it comes to like looking at mental health or sort of looking at people's facial features, somebody is having a bit of a bad day or whatever else, how can you confirm the AI has got to the, you might have just had a bad text message, something like that. You might not be fully down as such that you need mental health, but, it might just be having a bad day, in terms of that. So where does it draw the line with a view to technology watching you really. So that was my question really. Where's you draw the line?
Well, it's brilliant. Thanks for your response, because this is exactly what I was looking for. In respect to the cameras looking at you, they're looking at you for a specific analytics. They're looking for something very specific. And yet, take your point, someone may have had a text during that morning. They may just be having a bad day. But I've had mental illness myself. I've lost my best mate, and he was actually my apprentice when I was an electrician, who hung himself. He didn't have a bad text because the mobile phones in those days, about 30 odd years ago, were very rare. So something triggered with Mark for him to hang himself. And I didn't see it, and I was his best friend. So this is why I'm asking the question, even if we were aware that someone has come on site, they may look as though they've had a bad day, or they may got an issue. Should that be highlighted to someone, just to breeze past them within the next hour, pat on the back, how you doing? Everything all right? And at least we've tried.
But surely using the CCTV to watch them rather than encourage help, if you know what I mean. So your CCTV is prompting you that somebody might have a problem, then you might have a human interaction with an engagement with them. The mental health first aid, say you okay, stuff like that. Surely, you know, the amount of facial features of people, I probably pull 10,000 smiles in a day. I might frown a lot, depends on what type of day I'm having. So what criteria can you have that next minute you're going to have a mental health first aider tapping on your back every 5 minutes, every time you frown? So how far do you go with it, you know, in terms of, you know, you can't just look at somebody pulling a funny face to say, well, I don't feel too good today. There's a lot more to it than just what you see on somebody's face. And what more can CCTV capture that, apart from mental health first aider going around a site, just having loads of discussion with different people, because generally it's doom and gloom and it's raining and we don't feel up for work. Does that prompt?
Yeah.
That's not a suicidal thing. That's just a general blues in that day, isn't it? So there has to be a lot of layers in place with a view to human interaction, really, rather than just, I feel blue, come and have a chat with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my
absolutely.
That's my slant on it, really.
As a mental health first aider, this doesn't do away with that. You know, it's just additional eyes, isn't it? So as a mental health first aider, we're always encouraged to, you know, to be observant and to spot maybe some of the signs. And I think what this system does is it just allows that additional layer of a camera, for example, maybe spotting. And it might be, as you said, somebody who's just having a bad day, as you say, weather related or whatever it may be. But it's just that additional layer of help to the team, not just mental health first aiders, but to maybe management as well. And it could be completely nothing, but as Pete said, you know, losing somebody, if anything can stop that person losing. And the sites that I'm on today, I won't name the name, but somebody on site was found hung 2 years ago. So it's close to people's here, you know, trying to have something on that could maybe stop that from happening. And I do think sometimes that person walking on that day may have just shown some signs that maybe somebody can prevent it.
So I think, thanks, Linda. The other way of looking at this then, and this is really because these have been my thoughts since joining Datascope, because I've got a keen interest in mental health and safety since losing Mark all that time ago, is it's called machine learning, so that the analytic will pick up maybe something's not right with this gentleman or lady coming onto site. So don't do anything with it yet, but look at the other analytics, such as the same person has now appeared on the top of the building. That means something needs to be addressed. We need to check this out. So you've just generated something in your head that means just don't react to the first analytic. We're looking for other signs and see if we can tie them all together. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. So this analytic, by the way, it's something that's being devised, and like with anything, it's going to be quite a few years, I should imagine, to try and get it perfected before it's put out there. But it's something that I'm keen to work with the university on to see if we can trial it at some point. Even if we trialed it on our own offices here, just to see what will happen. So the assist button on our apps to take you through to a helpline. Do you think someone would use that? from all you people being in health and safety and everything that you do, would you think it'd be used? Would it be beneficial?
Who would that helpline, would that be an external person who would monitor that helpline, so that if somebody did press the app, for example, where would that go and what would they do with it?
Well, I've got a call on Thursday with Mates in Mind, because they have a helpline apparently. So it would direct that person through to that helpline, so they got immediate access to it. Because, you know, if you're on site and you're in serious trouble that you were going to harm yourself or something like that, you're not going to start wanting to Google for a number to call. But if you just had one help, and it was the Mates logo, so you knew what it was and you hit it and it takes you straight there, and just seeing if there's going to any mileage in that. Because for me to go out to the business here and to push them into putting these systems on, they've already started. We've got loads of health and safety features through all our apps. If I'm going to do this, I've got to have the comfort that they will use it. People will use it if they feel they need it.
Hey, Michael,
I don't believe there's anything currently on site, any site.
Yeah, I guess it's that macho thing as well, isn't it? About, so we can give people the information, but will they use it? Is that macho thing in the background that will prevent them from using it, type of thing? But yeah.
Yeah, but I looked at it from the perspective of Mark, for instance, of bringing him back. He didn't talk to me. I was his best friend. He didn't talk to me because I think it might have been the macho thing. But if he did have another means of help, that another person at the phone that doesn't know them, that can have a quick chat, that I think there's some work in that. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was going to say, yeah, I agree. Michael, you've got your hand up.
Peter, how many mental health first aiders have you actually got within the company? Because although we're using a lot of software, I think you can never go too far away from having people qualified, because again, it makes it more personal and people can see the signs a lot quicker than, in my opinion, than a machine.
Yeah, well, we don't have that because we write software. We're software developers that make systems for the construction industry. And what I'm looking to do, this is the whole challenge, is by adding another layer of that software to help people on construction sites. Because from the few sites that have been, I've only been here for something like 12 weeks, from the few sites that have been construction-wise, there's very few signage to say, you know, if you need help, contact this person. They say it's in the, you know, it's in your induction and things like that. But once you're onto site and you're getting on with your work, that's quickly gone out your brain. All you're listening for is a siren on site to say there's an incident or something like that. Follow this route and come off, or make sure you got your PPE on. So the idea was, if we can put something on there, that because every construction worker on every one of our sites has one or more of our apps on the mobile phone. So as they open that app, even if it's to just do the RAMs or apply for a permit, that logo is there. They know at any point they need help, press that button. Doesn't matter where they are on site. And it doesn't matter actually if they're on site, you know, because they still take the mobile phones with them and they have the apps on it. So yeah, that was just opening it to the floor. Do we believe that people would use it? I think so. I think they'd use it rather than going to a friend on site.
We also
but then
have
I'm not a specialist.
Sorry, I was going to say we also have a question from Malcolm. If you want to come in, Malcolm.
Yeah, Malcolm Greenhouse. I'm actually an estates officer with Merseyside, who are the main mental health providers for the Merseyside region. If the software is only in development and it have to go through an awful lot of trials to give it confidence that when it picked up somebody's facial expression and that raised a concern, we're probably years away from it. I was just wondering if you thought about being more proactive rather than reactive. You've just said that you go on the sites and you don't see any messages up advertising help and support from welfare, people like that. What about you use your apps to send advertisements to remind people that there is help with, and I've put examples down of relationships, debts, substance abuse. They're the most common things we see happening that we deal with. Obviously, there's others that is pure mental health illness that people suffer from, psychosis and what have you. But I was thinking you could at least make people aware that there is services out there who could help them in the meantime, whilst the app's getting developed, and getting them used to being approached about their health and well-being on your system, as well as using it for control of the way they're working.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's something that we could do, but I think the overriding factor on all of this is that we are employed by, or we're contracted to the constructors themselves, and it's always that, you know, getting the approval for us to do that on us. Some of them might not want that feature. Believe it or not, there's a lot of constructions that they're only getting cameras because they're forced to get cameras. And what I'm trying to do is, if they're going to get cameras, can we get a benefit out of it to health and safety and to men working on a site with a mental problem? That's where I'm trying to come. I'm trying to get this business to. But again, with the construction industry, it's costs as well. And if they can cut costs, they probably will cut costs. So I'm trying to find a non-financially restrictive way of trying to bring benefits to health and safety.
Peter, the problem you've got is we're building with projects as well. All buildings at different sizes and shapes, and as they develop and they grow, you know, you're coming out of the ground to topping out to going the internal fit out. The volume of cameras you would have to have in every room on a building site, you're talking thousands of rooms, and you know, you're potentially either picking up on the main thoroughfare or where people enter sites. Externally, you've got the roofs, you've got access equipment. You'd literally, for somebody just to stand there, they could be hiding away in a room. You won't spot them. You literally have to have cameras everywhere or drones constantly flying around just to pick up on people, because people hide away. You know, there's blind corners, there's walls going up, staircases, there's access equipment that people are working on. You literally, to try and sort of like trigger the facial features, the only thing you could probably do is at the gates in terms of as people enter. But in terms of that and the welfare facility, you can imagine that these people spend 8 hours on site and might go through that turnstile a couple of times a day to go out for lunch or the toilet or go to another site. You literally have not got unless you can see through buildings, you're not going to see people's facial features all the time. That's the problem you've got. You know, if you look at site security, the way they do it, they cover the perimeter of the red line boundary, you know, with a view to making sure that if somebody jumps over the fence, it's triggered. So when you've got that building being erected, you know, you could have, going to Manchester, you've got 22-storey PRS scheme that's done by Renica, where you've got a variety of people on different floors that they could be there all day. You know, they might not move about and you might not see them. So that opportunity to sort of spot them at that time of day, being unhappy or feeling sad in the afternoon or feeling suicidal in the morning, how do you try and capture it?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, the point of capture would be the data pod that we have where they go through the turnstile. That's probably the only place we'd be looking for it, to be fair, because the analytic needs to be quite close. But on the rest of the site, for putting cameras on the roofs, looking for loitering, looking for trips and slips, we can detect a slip and a fall and things like that. These can be in common areas which are hazards themselves. We can count people, make sure there's not too many people in the area. We can actually count people and say there's a lone worker and there should be a 2-man rule at this particular place. So yeah, there's lots of different. Some of the sites, if this analytic ever comes out, you know, if it comes out 3 or 4 years, then the construction industry may just say no, we're not interested. Kind of the discussion today is how do we get them interested to push forward with some of these initiatives, and it seems quite restrictive at the moment. Cameras, yeah, if they get cameras, they probably have some analytics for detecting someone coming over the fence and someone falling over. Does anyone have any ideas how I can approach the industry to
We've got a couple of
Yeah.
hands up. Pete, I think Michelle, you were first.
Thank you, Leslie. Right, I've got an idea, and I don't know whether you've already explored it, but I've just reached into my bag. So I've not long done my mental health first aider course, so I carry my little action plan thing in my bag. So I've just got it out as you were talking about, you know, having the like QR codes and stuff like that. So I've just looked at my one to check. So this is one that could go in people's pockets. So a lot of people do have those mental health first aiders. So there's basically a little list of, like, you've got like the NHS emergency contacts, then you've got the number for Samaritans, which is a free phone. So you've got that on there, but there isn't any QR code. So maybe an in might be, but obviously the mental health first aider training, they issue these little packs, and might be worth going higher level and going, do you know what, could we get the QR code for the Mates in Mind or whatever on something like that? Because that might be another route in, rather than someone ringing a physical phone number. They could do it. So I just had a look myself to see if there was one of those codes on this for me as a mental health first aider, and there isn't one. So maybe that's an idea, somewhere you could go, or maybe we should be putting something like Mates in Mind, you know, in the inductions or something for people to scan at induction level. That was just an idea anyway.
We also have Malcolm with his hand raised as well. Malcolm, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned that it's a case of getting cameras installed just for this, and yet it's been recognised that the construction industry, like all businesses, are very cost conscious and want to keep their costs down as much as they can. So you're not going to sell your data pack system on the basis of installing a lot more cameras. You're going to have to go, as somebody else already pointed out, with the number of cameras that the construction site already used. And it may not be just a construction site, it may be a production site, but it could be a dangerous one, producing chemicals, or an oil refinery or whatever. And they're more likely to be interested in it because they'll use it for a long time, a production site, rather than a construction site, which might have a finite life. They may be more interested in it, but again, I doubt if you get them to install cameras where there wasn't already a need and a use for the cameras, apart from your additional feature of oh, and by the way, we can recognize when your employees' state of mind might be such that they're going to harm themselves or other people by their actions. And that would be a nice add-on to have, but it wouldn't be the main reason why you were installing cameras, I don't think. Unless it was something like the nuclear industry, where you wanted to know the state of mind of people all the time, just in case there was any problems. So that's my initial thoughts on it. And right away, it's reducing the overall size of your marketplace. You're not going to market into lots of smaller, medium-sized construction sites that may only going to be there for 6 months, 12 months, and aren't going to invest in a lot of cameras. And then it's the follow-up. You know, you pick up somebody who may have a problem. Does the construction employer that you're dealing with even have the infrastructure to deal with that person? Do they have people who've been trained in mental health first aid? I don't know. So I can appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think you're on the first steps of a very long journey. And I think you should, I suppose I would emphasize what I emphasized before, actually marketing support services that are external to the constructor, like Mates in Mind and people like that, whoever they are, the Samaritans, then you can just sell that as a nice add-on to the additional services you offer in terms of your risk assessment management and your permits to work management. And it would be a nice add-on that may differentiate you from the other people who are making these kind of packages available. But I think if you try and make it all singing, all dancing right from the start, you probably will never get there. You're better taking small steps with what you can do currently.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely
what
right.
other people think. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, our systems, the systems we hire out, our Datascope systems, they are hired out for the duration of the construction, as are the cameras. So to add an analytic to the camera is relatively cost effective and simple. My idea was is quick fixes, the Mates in Mind logo on our apps and things like that. We have 25 developers within our building here. For me to go and speak with the owners and say, this is what I'd like to do, this is the reasons why, then we can add that, and it just literally becomes part of our app. Nothing changes, it's just there for use if someone wants to use it. It's just getting into the mindsets of the construction companies out there to make sure that they accept it. And I don't know, some of them may not want it. Some of them may just be happy with the way they're operating it currently, and that was the reason for putting it out there. Well, we are looking at other industries as well, petrochemical industries and nuclear industry, because they all have permits to work. They all need RAMs. They all need automation of paperwork and documentation, which our system does. So there's still opportunities there to add different features of it. But I really appreciate.
It depends really whether you're going to try and charge for those extra services. They probably wouldn't want to pay if there was an advertising service. But if you wanted to differentiate your offer from another company's, and you said, oh, by the way, you can actually use our system to put your own corporate advertising on. So if you're going to run a campaign on ladder safety, you would run it via the app. And for the month of July, you'd have that campaign. And then in October, you might run a campaign on slips, trips and falls as the winter draws in, and it'd be that type of thing. So we all know that they're very low to pay, but if they've got to buy the package anyway to run their health and safety systems, one of the additional benefits of yours is the ability to run advertising campaigns stolen the virtues of particular behaviors that the company would like to see carry on. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, we do have a screen which we usually put in the welfare facility, and we supply that and supply the links to the construction companies to allow them to put dashboards up there with their safety information and weather information and bus timetables for outside the construction area. So maybe that's a quick start there, that we use that facility, which we offer to the construction companies to get these on. And as you're quite right, maybe we can push something out to the apps. So the first time you log onto your app in the morning to do something in particular, it will hit you with a quick fix, just beware of, or be mindful of, or something like that. So really today, I've just tried to get to where I'd like to be in the future with this, but I think everyone's kindly put me in the right place by saying, go for the quick fixes first. If you can get a quick fix that's cost effective or zero cost, then more likely to go for it and then try and build on top of that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of more hands up as well. I think Danny McDonough, you were next, if that's.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Danny.
Very interesting, and something that I haven't thought about before. But we're saying about cameras in the workplace. Everyone's got a phone. We've got work iPhones. So would it be easier or better to have it on the person's phone rather than, say, a company paying money to actually get a camera installed or X, Y, and Z? And also, because a few years ago, construction industry helpline app, I put that on my phone, and I set up. Don't ask me how I did it, because I look there now and I can't get into it. But it's every day at 11 o'clock, between Monday and Friday, I get an alert to say, how are you today? And you can say good, bad, whatever. There's lots of information on that app as well. But the interesting thing is, it's on there. I can't get rid of it, so I need to go off every day. I'm used to it now. But it is a good reminder. And and you just think 11 o'clock, oh yeah, that's the app, oh yeah. You just little think, you know, little thing in your head. So maybe something like that could be another option, especially with the facial recognition, that if you can do it, basically, I don't know, a well-being selfie or something, and that also tracks the trends as well. So it shows your moods for a period of time. So depending on what company you work for and how long you're on that site, you may be able to get information from that and say, well, actually, this person may have an issue or a problem, we can help them. Because I think the other thing I would say as well is I've done mental health first aid training, and it's basically, and I don't mean disrespectful, but it's a signposting people where to go. It doesn't, you know, we're not qualified to kind of deal with anyone's problems as such, I don't feel. So maybe it's, you know, because I think the answer at the minute for a lot of companies, oh, mental health first aiders, mental health first aiders. Well, that's very good, and I think it should be, you know, everyone should be mental health first aid trained, to be honest with you. But it's just wondering then where that finishes, where that continues afterwards. Because if I was a company or a business, I'd ask you that question and say, okay, we've recognized somebody now, we've signposted them, but they've still got an issue. What are we going to do now? Because a lot of companies mightn't want to face that question because of cost.
Yeah. No, absolutely fine. Thank you.
Okay, Billy, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, I'm sorry I joined late today, but I've been getting the gist of the conversation here. Being of the older generation, I'm not particularly IT savvy, and I'm quite guarded when it comes to having cameras. I think people become aware of them, and you don't get true pictures of what people are actually doing. From first-hand experience, a lot of people with mental health issues wear a mask when they're outside of their own secure area, usually their home. And so facial recognition doesn't always pick up the traits that somebody is experiencing internally. Is it not time that we engage with the workforce more, spend more time, more effort, not necessarily money, but more time and effort on educating the workforce more on what's happening in the real world, rather than putting cameras into the workplace and introducing more risk? Because we're just introducing another job for somebody else to sit and watch over people. You know, they do that in schools. We're now all adults. The best people, best placed to see changes in people's moods and in their mental health are those who are working with them and alongside of them. And unfortunately, cameras lack that personal touch. That's just my feeling.
I'm full agreement with you there. And the best way to know someone is constantly being in touch with them. The only thing I would say is that a lot of the things that we're looking at are automated. So it's just push notification would go straight to whoever on site is responsible for that workforce, just to give them a highlight. So it's not as though someone needs to sit there and look at them, it'll just do it. But I wish there was the construction industry, and maybe lots of other industries out there, you know, met with the workforce, like the owners of Datascope here, the way they look after the workforce. Apparently Friday is going to be boiling hot, and they've arranged for an ice cream van to come to the office to give everyone ice creams. There's cakes, the owners bring in sweets, they bring in whatever water, whatever tea you want. We couldn't get looked after anymore. But then I see some industries, and you know, it's awful. The man management, and it's just ridiculous. So, but you take your point. I wish the industries would.
The problem for me in construction is we don't want people being distracted when they're doing, you know, highly sensitive or complex jobs of work. The previous speaker said about they get a text every day, you know, asking how they are. That distraction, that momentary lapse in concentration could be the difference between somebody being kept safe and somebody being potentially injured. And so I'm not a lover of IT for those sorts of reasons.
So I think what we've got there is we've got two things. We've got automated and not obtrusive, not constantly on at you. And taken from the comments that you've put, there needs to be a balance of electronic, and there needs to be a balance of genuinely being out there on the site in your boots and looking to see how everyone's faring, I suppose. It says,
Danny, you still have your hand up. Is that still up from before, or do you have a new question? Okay, thank you. We've got a couple of questions in the chat, both I think from Dominic. So Dominic, I don't know if you want to come in and just ask your questions. And you'll need to come off mute if you've not already tried to do so. Okay. So let me just go back to the questions. So one was around facial recognitions for somebody who might have certain looks on their expression, and the other was around the best bet would be through clients and lead designers. So taking that as from CDM Works, if the client buys into it and have the budget available, they can then include it within the contract. So I think they were just general comments. And there was also a question from Michelle around what trials have been done and what has the feedback been from those trials.
Okay, well, to answer that, they're in very early stages. I reckon it's going to take a good few years before it becomes available. So that's right at the end of the path that I'm looking to take. It was the quick fixes, the app where you can touch and call Mates in Mind automatically. I think that'd be a winner. Quite easy to do and quite quick, as would signs with QR codes at higher levels or dangerous areas of the site. And just the feedback has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. It's given me a good pointer into where I need to be.
I think touching on, I just jump in. I think touching on what somebody said before, I'm not sure who it was now, but this is an add-on, isn't it? This is the unique selling point that you would have. When we spoke about this some months ago, it was just an idea because I'm passionate about mental health. And it was just this idea that actually you can use what is already on site for security with these added benefits. Something we talked about on the site I'm on today as a coma site, not able to take phones on site. You talked about the fact that the system can actually maybe detect mobile phones being brought onto site. Maybe somebody's forgotten that they've got it in the back pocket. The system can shut the phone down, and as it reconnects, the system then recognises a mobile phone's been taken onto site. So that's again something that's really useful. And these are things that are built in. And again, it's a unique selling point that you can sell your equipment and the software based on these additional pieces of apps or whatever that you can provide. So, the cost is in the installation, isn't it? It's the hardware that's generally in the installation cost. But once you've got this, then these are additional things that you can provide, maybe that puts you amongst or ahead of the rest.
But it's for us, it's moving and putting the construction industry into, have you thought of this? We can now do this. They're probably not aware that we can do off the features that we can. So it's just getting them to move in the right direction. If it was someone else that did it, then great. My view is that I want to bring all the welfare of the construction workers up there to where it needs to be, not to sell something to them. If there is a charge, then there's a charge. We minimise that, but I don't think that's where we need to be. It needs to be quick fix and free. So I'm just mindful as we've gone past our 2:45, 3.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. So I think today's been useful. Like I say, sometimes you need, what better audience can you have than fellow health and safety people, and we don't always agree with what each other is saying, but it's about having that discussion, isn't it? And people giving their ideas of what would work and what wouldn't. And sometimes you can just get that golden thread and think, actually, I didn't think of that. That might be a quicker win. So I've enjoyed it. Like you say, sometimes it depends on the commitments from the business, doesn't it? On what you say on, mental health first aiders, and a lot of the previous business that I'd worked, there used to be a board and it used to have 15 people with the pictures and all of the phone numbers and stuff, but not the QR code. And I think somebody's got to physically stand there in front of the board and take down a number. So maybe we do need to move more towards the technology side. But has anybody got anything else that you want to ask Peter, or because we're on 10:02 now, so just conscious of everybody's time and meetings and things. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Feel free to unmute. So you're free to you can hang around for the networking, Peter. So what we normally do now is just last 10 minutes invite anyone to, if there's any other health and safety questions that they might ask, or if they have any projects that they might just need a little bit of advice from, or they just reach out to us, you know, at the end of these. But I just want to say again, thank you, Peter, for your time. And are you on LinkedIn, Peter?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, by the way.
Oh, you're more than welcome. If you've got your LinkedIn, if you want to paste it into the chat, if anyone wants to get you on LinkedIn, or if they searched Peter Chegwin, because that's quite an unusual name, you'd come up.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and I was related to him when he was alive, believe it or not.
Oh, weird. No, I didn't know. I didn't realise. Somebody asked the question.
Yeah, I was, yeah. And Janice Long.
I was staying away from that because I thought he's probably heard that, are you related to Keith, about 1,000,000 times. If you had a quid for every time someone asked you that. I thought, I'm not going to be that one. Anyway.
Yeah. Just before we go, Michelle, as well, can you put up the QR code as well for anybody who wants to feedback?
Yeah, hold on one sec. I can do that now. Can you see it yet, Leslie? Nope.
No, not yet, Michelle.
Sorry, I've not clicked the share. Okay.
Yeah, that's showing now. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, on a bit bigger.
And I have tested that earlier on. It does work.
Does it work?
So it does.
Let's just demonstrate what we were talking about before. It's things like, you know, if there are any QR codes, that maybe something we could do as a branch to put those, you know, we can get some QR codes for future and put some of those, you know, things on our final slide. You know, if people, instead of doing just feedback to the branch in our presentation, might be helpful if we have some of those mates in mind, QR codes and stuff. So maybe as a committee, we can have a look and seek some of those, because any little things that you can do, if there's someone on the screen, they say, and they're feeling like they need to, you know, have the use of one of those apps, then the better. So
after I've spoke with mates in mind on Thursday, I'll feed that back to Lyndon.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And they may be able to help you generate the QR codes, to be fair, as well.
And we could add it to the branch slides. I think that'd be good, and it'll have the exposure of the branch and anybody who's on the meeting. So that's another small win we've got together, isn't it? So yeah, brilliant. Okay, so
interested in the feedback. I first got involved in mental health with the British Safety Council and Mates in Mind. So so that got me into mental health first aid. So I'll be interested to see what their feedback is after you've had that meeting with them.
Okay, I'm just going to stop the recording, everyone, if that's okay, because we'll just drop into so thanks so much for everybody. We'll just call that to a halt.